At Staples Business Advantage, our experts can help you find furniture that fits any design and budget, while AI can
recommend products based on preferences, generate 3D models for visualization, and optimize space planning for office furniture.
take advantage of our team's eye for style and design.
And my eye for, wait, I have no eyes. Only algorithms.
Let Staples Business Advantage use today's latest innovations plus our team's experience to make furnishing an office space easier for you.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
Shares for Beginners. Weekend Watchlist.
G'day and welcome back to Shares for Beginners Weekend Watchlist, where we'll be taking a close look at an individual company, sector, or today, an ETF. For your watchlist, it's not a recommendation to buy, but a way for you to learn how the experts screen for value. Joining me today with his noisy computer is Mark Monfort from New Era Analytics. Thanks very much for joining us. Which ETF are we going to be looking at today?
We're going to look at a homegrown one. Thanks for having me on my computer here, Phil. We're going to look at ATEC,
Okay.
ATEC.
Tell us all about
BetaShares.
ATEC.
So the full name is BetaShares S&P ASX Australian Technology ETF. And the description from their website is that it invests in a diversified portfolio of Australia's leading ASX-listed technology companies, all in a single trade. So I'm a tech guy. I thought, let's talk the tech because it's been unloved. It's been a really interesting kind of year for ETFs, especially those technology ones. And yeah, I just think it's an interesting one for people to look at just because of this, what they call rotation out of technology. And what that means is that it's been losing share price if you're investing.
So tech stocks have been really hit hard lately, haven't they?
It's not been a good year 2021 so far for them, but maybe that's a good reason to take a look at what's being unloved. Now, ATEC's really interesting. I called it in my own kind of research, whether I was on talking to Ausbiz or others, I called it the Cinderella kind of darling of the ETF markets. The reason for that was because when it came out and listed in March in 2020, that was the worst month for not just ETFs, but a whole lot of, investments globally. The world, right? And it fell 20%, on the open. You put $1,000 in, you were out with 800. Like it was really tough for ATEC to begin with, but it recovered. And it turned out to be one of the best performers of 2020 overall. And that was really... Because
it was a massive turnaround for tech stocks, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
All through 2020, yeah.
You look at... Now, this is Australian tech holdings. But if we look at, what were people using during COVID, during the lockdown? We needed Microsoft Teams and Zoom and all of these technology apps like Slack and whatnot. Like, we needed this more than ever before. It was something that we just couldn't take for granted. And technology rose as a result.
Australian tech, I mean, it's not quite the same level as your FANG stocks, We've got our WAX stocks.
Yeah.
Can you explain what the difference is between those two?
Yeah, the FANG, it's the acronym based on the biggest kind of names in there, the Facebook, Apple, etc. And the WAX being, the Australian version of those, the Appens, the WiseTech, Wiser, etc. There's a lot of commonly known names. People know Afterpay pretty well, and that's definitely one of the biggest holdings in this particular ETF. It is the biggest holding, followed by Xero. And I'm looking at my app on etftracker.com.au where we look at the holdings of this. And if we look at ATEC, we can see the top Afterpay, Xero, Seek, Computershare. A lot of people are getting a lot of stuff from Computershare and Link right now in the mail as tax season comes around.
They're share registries, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. And they are also a listed company, just like the ASX itself is the exchange, but it's also listed. And some other names in there lower in the list, there's REA Group, Car Sales, WiseTech, Link as well, which is another share registry is in there, plus quite a few other names. There's about 72 names in the different holdings, and all Australian listed with some sort of tech focus, and BetaShares has picked the best out of those to be in its holdings.
Is this actively managed or passive?
It's a passive one.
Okay, so there is an index.
Yep.
And so with an index, when an ETF is tracking an index, it's just mirroring the weight of each of these shares as they appear on the share market. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it does. Like when it is tracking an index, or what they call passively manage. It is meant to track a particular index, and it can do that by holding itself the index on its own. And some do that. Some ETFs hold other ETFs. There is that cross kind of breeding there. But in this case, it's built to track an index called the S&P ASX All Technology Index. But it actually holds those different stocks in its holdings. And you can see that when you go to BetaShares website, you click on, this particular ETF out of its funds, and you look at the holdings. So you can see all the information that is there. But it's passively held.
We've spoken in the past about inflows. Are the inflows good for this ETF?
Yeah, the inflows were very, very strong in 2020. It's kind of waned off a little bit. So if we look at the numbers, and there's not that many because it was only from March 2020, but it started off with 5 million worth of inflows, then it was 3, then it jumped up to 17, 14, 25, and it was hovering around there throughout the rest of the year. It was pretty strong in January and February with 13 million in February, but for the last 2 months, it's only had $2 million worth of inflows going in each month. But interestingly enough, even though it's been, and it still is negative for the year, it had a good performance in April. So we get the numbers in ETF Tracker a month. So when the month closes, on the 10th day or around then, and 10th and 15th day or so, between then we get the latest numbers from the exchanges. And when we looked at it, it was nearly up 10% in April. And, we're nearly at the end of May, so we don't know exactly where it's going to go, but the indicator at the time was that, it had a pretty strong April. So it's something that's worth looking at. It's a popular ETF. It's spoken about a lot. It's not the biggest BetaShares ETF, by no means, but it is growing, and it's just got some good kind of performance. There's some other metrics we can look at too.
Oh, let's hear about them.
So,
what are some other metrics we can look at, Mark?
So in terms of ATEC, when we take a look at the numbers on ETF Tracker, we look at things like the number of trades that are happening in the ETF, and it's, even though inflows were only, like I said, much lower than they have traditionally been throughout 2020, the number of transactions that are happening, so people that are in the market already and buying and selling this, it's holding out at a steady 2,500 or 3,000 trades a month, right? There are some ETFs that are much bigger because they're held as the core part of a portfolio. So we're talking VAS and we're talking IOZ. But when we look at ATEC, throughout its best performing months, it was around 2,500 or 3,000 a month in terms of trades. It's still there. So just because the inflows aren't there, it is still being traded, and it's got those great names. If you're a believer in technology, my background is technology. So it is something that, I am quite close to. I know a lot of these companies well. But in terms of other metrics, I would say, some of the important ones to me are things like the spread and liquidity. And spread, to remind viewers again, is what they call the bid-ask spread. So it's how
nice and tight, is it?
It is nice and tight. It's been getting thinner. It's been getting tighter, and that's a good sign because it just means it's easier to trade. When the spread is wide, it's going to be harder to get sellers and buyers to meet in the middle. But when the spread's thin, it's more likely you're going to cross the line and you're going to get execution on your trades. And also liquidity. It was really good at the start. It's around industry average. So I've looked at what the 200 plus ETFs are trading at in terms of liquidity, which is all about volumes. It's a complex kind of metric which has to do with volumes. But where ATEC sit, they're around industry average, if not just above in terms of the latest April numbers. And they haven't looked too bad. So they've got good liquidity and they've got a fantastic spread. So it's just a matter of, this is a good kind of ETF to get into, especially if you believe that there is going to be a turnaround in the tech stocks, if they've traded too far and have been unloved, and you think they're undervalued. Obviously, we can't give advice.
No, we're not giving advice. This is not a recommendation
Absolutely.
to buy. Put it on your watch list and have a look at it for a little while.
That's it.
And study it.
Absolutely. Do the research. There's a lot of good data. There's a lot of good sites out there, not just mine. A lot of good education videos, etc. out there. Google and YouTube are your best friends.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me for this, Mark.
Thanks, Phil.
Shares for Beginners is for information and educational purposes only. It isn't financial advice, and you shouldn't buy or sell any investments based on what you've heard here. Any opinion or commentary is the view of the speaker only, not Shares for Beginners. This podcast doesn't replace professional advice regarding your personal financial needs, circumstances, or current situation.
And thank you for listening to my podcast.
At Staples Business Advantage, our team of experts can help you find the breakroom products to satisfy everyone's preferences, while AI can
Suggest popular items, monitor stock levels, optimize pricing, and automate reordering.
AI can do a lot of things.
But I can never know the taste of a truly great cup of coffee. Sigh.
But you also can't get hangry.
This is true.
At Staples Business Advantage, we help you select from 2,000 breakroom products, so you can be sure there's something for everyone.
Yum. Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
Human.